out. I mean, no way. We don't use alcohol where I come from. Where's that? The Dark Ages? People who don't drink alcohol? That's impossible! Maybe the future. We'll see.
Future events such as these will affect you in the future.
Amina says it's getting cold outside, no surprise considering how much friggin' rain there is, and they decide to go back inside. Finally seeing Jay's face, we can tell she's clearly into Amina, who says, "Come along, you're my date now, aren't you?" And they hold hands and re-enter wherever the hell they were at, as signified by the 16 small panels showing different people's faces. 14 feature faces. 2 show close-ups of scantily clad female bodies because sex, 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 sex. What I'm trying to say, in case my very low-key comments weren't an indication, is that Frank Miller draws with one hand. Actually, that would explain why his art has continued to degenerate over the years. And then Jay notices something under Amina's coat. Amina leans in for a kiss and suicide bombing by Amina. Thank you, Frank, for this very important message. Foreign exchange students are secretly enemy agents. Treat them with suspicion and hate. You know, it's days like today that really make me regret my decision to not use the more colorful 4-letter words, just so I can scream what a piece of surely fine work this comic is. And back to now. What's funny is that even if it would have been after-school special material, if this was the kind of book that it was supposed to be, that scene with a bit of rewriting would have been perfect for demonstrating how Al-Qaeda is only a small percentage of Muslims, that the other 1.6 billion Muslims out there are just as much victims of terrorism as any other innocent. But no, instead of having her be the victim, Amina, who I just recently discovered was the name of the Prophet Muhammad's mother, cute, is the perpetrator of mass murder. What was even the point of that scene if it wasn't just to show all Muslims are evil? I mean, narratively, it served no point. The story of the Fixer and Natalie Stack is not improved by knowing about the suicide bomber or her sudden decision to drink alcohol. And this is also despite her religion being against it, which further confuses things. What's the point of having her do that? To show Muslims are hypocrites? Dear Lord, this book is dumb. Oh, and speaking of dumb, we once again have the narration captions start with Natalie Stack, cat burglar, reeling. And then the captions in Natalie's first-person perspective with nothing to distinguish them. Hell, it's even worse in this case when they're stacked on top of each other. It really seems like Natalie talks about herself in the third person. The Fixer holds me up. He's got a tremble running through him too, but his is angry, like he wants to start killing people. I've got a goddamn nail stuck in my goddamn leg. Ah, now I know why this book is designed like it is, so we can conveniently hit ourselves with it because of the tedious and repetitive dialogue. Me and the Fixer, we don't know what we cough up or who. Are you two cannibals? It's thick. It's like breathing poisoned chalk. These scenes are meant to imply that they're being consumed by the smoke and ash of the explosions, but honestly, I couldn't tell at first. That line is a pretty good one. Understandable given the easy comparison to the dust cloud created by the World Trade Center Tower's collapse. But like I said, I couldn't tell at first because it doesn't look all that different from when it was just the rain. It looks like Frank was pressing napkins or paper towels into the place to create the smoke effects, and it would have looked very effective if not for all the damn rain from earlier that looked so similar. He just replaced one bloated image of art gone mad with another. Fixer sucks in a load of something ghastly. He pukes it back out. What? I thought you said earlier you wanted him to make you sick. It goes quiet for a brief second, but another explosion soon follows. Except this time, instead of nails, it's razor blades. Again, great distance on these things, especially now since we've got coordinated explosions all over the damn place from what I presume are small explosives hidden under jackets. For some reason that completely baffles me, Natalie Stack takes off one of her boots and yells, "Damn!" in huge letters. Hell, she did it one-handed! That's a pretty loose-fitting boot, then. Why would she do that in the middle of a razor blade storm? What the hell is going on? Wait, could it be the fixer who took it off?
Stole my boots. Nobody steals my boots.
And then Natalie Stack is falling, bootless and yelling for help, and then suddenly a rope pulls her back up and she's being carried by the fixer and her boot is back on again? What?
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Who is this man, this fixer, this cutter of animal balls? Why does he do it? Risking his life, hunting down criminals, saving people. There can't be any money in it. Believe it or not, it's actually a pyramid scheme. He rescues one person, they dress up in superhero garb and rescue two more, etc., etc. And then a full page of people's heads. About 50 of them in total, all drawn in Miller's scratchy, slightly cartoonish style. They fade to white on the one page, and then on the next it's all completely white for another 78 small panels. I'll give him credit, while Miller's art style grates on me these days, this is an effective 2 pages, wait, there's a third page, now with 208 small panels. And now this is overkill. The point was more effective with just the 2 pages worth. I can only imagine how silly this would actually have been if this really was in regular comic formatting. 6 pages of it, 4 of which consisted of nothing but blank white rectangles. At that point, it just becomes parody. I would not have been surprised if the next page would have had 500 tiny squares and the editor would have finally had to step in and tell Frank, "Enough, we get the point!" But Frank would scream, "No, my point is not clear enough! More tiny rectangles! More!" And by the way, I've been trying to give the benefit of the doubt to this, but I just did a count. If we only include pages after the made-up Muhammad quote, the book is only actually 109 pages. If we include the all-white panel pages, 56 pages of those 109 pages are splash pages. Literally more than half of this book is made up of splash pages. Even when Frank is working on a passion project of his, he's extraordinarily lazy. And while visually and from a narrative perspective, plenty of them are fine as splash pages, it's also rendered this book wholly without story. We've actually reached the halfway point of the comic. Yeah, we're at the halfway point, and we are still only on the first plot point, the terrorist attack. This episode is quickly becoming as long as the 200th episode, and yet even less has happened than in one more day. How do you do that? Also, a page of what I presume is supposed to be random destruction and debris, but with a red heel and... I had no idea what this green thing was at first, but it was pointed out to me that it is in fact a car. Looks kind of like the one from Action Comics #1, to be honest. What the hell is the perspective here? There's another car that I could make out more clearly in the black and white, but then huge-ass red shoe! Or is this just Frank Miller saying he was a huge fan of the Red Shoe Diaries back in the day? Upon seeing this wanton destruction in graphic black, white, and red shoe and green car, not Batman and not Catwoman give their reactions. No, not on my watch. Not on my turf. Not on my horribly drawn and horribly inked pages. Seriously, is it just me or do they have the exact same face here? We cut to a police station, at least what I presume is a police station, where there's general pandemonium, or at least what passes for it. We have cops getting reports about what's going on, but the weird thing is that they seem to be receiving them on their walkie-talkies. I suppose it would kind of make sense that they'd switch over to more primitive tech, since it's likely cell phone traffic would create too much pandemonium, except the things that they're talking about look like the things you would talk about on cell phones, yet they're not being held in a cell phone-like way. Oh baby, no, not Carla, not Carla! Like, did this policewoman give a walkie-talkie to a friend or her husband or something? It's clearly someone she knows who's informing her. I guess it could be another cop, but still. And the other guy on a walkie-talkie? Yes, ma'am. I'll tell him just as soon as he takes a breath. Who the hell is he talking to? Hey, wait a second. I just realized something. A policewoman. We have a policewoman on the force. And she's not being sexualized, not talking about sex, not having sex, and not being a victim. I mean, yeah, she's talking about someone she cares about who's apparently dead, but that's just human. Is this the first time this has happened in a Frank Miller book I've reviewed? Sweet merciful crap! Christmas has come early! Frank Miller has a female character who's an actual human being! Hello?
Linkara. Hey, Linkara. Linkara, it's me. I mean, you from the future.
Okay.
Hey, I just want to remind you, she's not even a character. I mean, she's just a background element. She doesn't even have a name. So, it really doesn't matter.
You pierced the bounds of space and time to tell me that?
People are going to bring it up in the comments section, and it kind of turns you like hostile and bitter and, kind of a jerk.
That sounds highly implausible.
Yeah, implausible. Yeah, implausible. You must be in the vest and tie period right now. About as implausible as, shipping Revolution of the Mask or History of Power Rangers in any kind of timely fashion.
Man, I am a jerk in the future.
All right, bye. See ya.
So anyway, back to the comic, and we meet not Jim Gordon, who looks exactly like Jim Gordon. Frank didn't even try to make him look different. In this, he's Dan Donegal. Also, check out the way he's walking. What the hell is it with horrible comics and bizarre walking? Remember how the girl with red hair in One More Day walked? Yeah, it's happening again, only somehow an even stupider walk. Tell Leibowitz I want his flabby ass commanding the East End, and tell him to keep the local slime from partying all over Empire City. Now I imagine Empire City is actually some kind of fantasy RPG setting with slime creatures that you have to battle for easy XP early in the game. Oh, and check it out. I'm not kidding about the spilled whiteout idea. You can get away with your sloppy paint job to imitate rain and explosions, but what the hell are all these white dots everywhere supposed to represent? And Donegal's cigarette is exiting his mouth horizontally as it drops out. Where the hell does Frank Miller live that he thinks objects fall sideways? Did he draw this book while he was glued to the side of a wall? And then on this page, the hell are you looking at? Well, I shouldn't expect an answer, because now it's time for Quiet Panels of Nothing. Well, I say nothing, but I should distinguish it from the nothing we had earlier. We have a series of images. I see somebody in a shroud, or possibly just a bad silhouette, holding a rocket launcher, some guys protesting somewhere, then George W. Bush, then Michael Moore. There is no dialogue here, people. There is no text. I have no idea what the hell this is supposed to indicate. There are 3 pages of this, just random shots of people's heads, some terrorists, smokestacks, then a suicide bomber, the nails and razor blades, a Muslim woman, at least I presume it to be a woman, holding up the peace sign, doors with the Star of David opening up on what I presume to be another cloud of smoke or explosion. Is this like one of those make-your-own stories for kids kind of things, where we're supposed to write in our own dialogue and make up our own scene? Also, I'm sure that the nails and razor blades are just supposed to be symbolic, but frankly, with how many times he keeps repeating the image, I'm getting the impression that they're still flying through the air after this long. Why not? Everything else seems to defy gravity in this comic. And on the next page, wait, is that the head of Woody Allen? Anyway, the Fixer and Natalie Stack swing through the negative zone, or whatever all this white space is. Probably some kind of other dimensional realm or something. Like with everything falling, the leaking blood from their injuries, at least again, I presume it's blood, they could actually be disintegrating, is falling sideways. Also, Subway sandwich thighs on Natalie Stack. Goody! The Fixer, out for blood. The Fixer, out for lunch. I think the idea of these caption panels saying their names and what they're doing is supposed to indicate who's talking now, but it's just such a stupid way of doing this. Why not just have colored captions? They know where to hit us. They know exactly where to hit us.
They knew exactly where to hit us.
All my life there's been something wrong. Something missing. A sense that everything I'm seeing all around me isn't entirely true. It's almost like the entire premise for my existence as a fictional character is based on inaccuracies and bigoted nonsense. But that can't be it. That this seemingly ordered world of laws and logic and reason is nothing but a shroud, a camera, a mask. When the hell has our world ever been an ordered one of laws and logic? We live in a world where on some days we can't tell if it's a parody news article from The Onion or a real thing happening.
We'll be back after a few short messages. And after all, I should know. I'm from the future. We're back. See, I told you.
I've got a captain on the force. You're shitting me. Well, with this story, you would know feces. When the Fixer says that it's Captain Donegal, Natalie repeats the crapping her remark and does the splits in midair. But every once in a long while, the mask falls away. Every once in a while, the whole world makes perfect sense. The world reveals itself. A new Sailor Moon anime is coming. The world makes perfect sense again. With a wild laugh, she lets go of my, oh good God, this artwork! Natalie Stack has suddenly become a bodybuilder with massive shoulders and biceps, boob socks, a cracked spine, and arms almost as thick as her thighs. You know what's really sad? There are so many talented artists out there. So many people who have done, say, fan art for this show, or just amateur webcomic artists, who do such better work out there, who honestly deserve a chance at comics. And then I see garbage like this get printed and sold for $30, and I just weep. Frank Miller still gets work. That's how you know this world doesn't make any sense. She flies. I hope I'm not in love with her. I've never fallen in love. I never want to fall in love. I must never fall in love. Never. The girl cooties would just interfere in my mission of fixing things. I must never fall in love. Dear God, Frank, when did you become a 12-year-old kid writing crappy Batman fanfics? We come to Earth. Confirmation that these characters are in fact aliens. And despite them coming to Earth, they still swing and travel around some more on the next 2 pages. According to the following page, that was representative of them searching for clues. Yeah, and it's only now that we get our next plot point. The Fixer calls Donegal on his 2-way wrist radio, helpfully pointed out in this caption, lest we fear he's just a crazy person talking to his watch. Not an unfounded concern, I must say. Donegal reports that they have a lead. One of the terrorists tried to suicide bomb a saloon, but his explosives didn't go off. The crowd, recognizing the danger he posed, quickly attacked him, and a nearby cop managed to get the guy out of there before the drunken patrons killed him. Actually, here's a thought. It's only now that they have any evidence that it was an Islamic terrorist attack. I mean, yes, we the readers knew it was them, but the Fixer didn't. Natalie Stack didn't. The cops didn't. All they knew was that there were multiple explosions. It could have been a Timothy McVeigh type or a militia group. You don't have to rule out foreign attack, but I'm just saying they immediately jumped on that bandwagon. But whatever. Donegal reports that he's in a medical helicopter and they'll question him as soon as his lungs work. No, you moron! Aren't you good for anything? Can this marriage be saved? Land that chopper now! Those creeps are organized! They know where each other is! Wouldn't they assume he was in several thousand pieces? And they've got Stinger missiles! How the hell do you know that? And why would they still be in the city beyond the suicide bombings? The 9/11 attacks weren't a prelude to a military invasion. This isn't friggin' Red Dawn here. They were designed to cripple the economy, the Defense Department, and potentially other areas in a single suicide attack using airplanes as bombs. But no, it seems that the jihadists knew exactly what chopper it was and where to set themselves up to shoot, since a Stinger missile quickly hits and destroys the helicopter. Stinger missiles, and no regard for human life. None for the valiant medics struggling to save their comrade, and none for their comrade himself. Well, to be fair, he was already on the docket for a suicide bombing, so I don't think they were all that concerned about his continued existence. No regard for human life, eh? Yeah, not being concerned about the sanctity of life is pretty monstrous, isn't it? So, how does the Fixer respond to this? Let's get us some killing done! Oh, God. I mean, is this a parody comic? Have I been wrong this whole time? There's no separation there. On one page, terrorists are evil because they have no regard for human life. On second page, the Fixer wants to kill people. Or maybe terrorists aren't people. I don't know, screw this comic. The rain eases up. Now there's just floaty white stuff. Do you not know what smoke is? Maybe it's paper from the explosions. Maybe it's ash. Maybe it's a crappy artist who didn't draw any backgrounds. So conveniently, the Fixer and Natalie Stack are right near the terrorists who fired the Stinger missiles, so they leap down to attack. Triumph! Praise Allah! Oh hell! Why are we all speaking in English? And in what is supposed to be deliberate irony, the Fixer begins shooting the terrorists repeatedly, the caption box proclaiming, "We engage in postmodern diplomacy." Ha 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 ha. Criminy, this artwork. Let's ignore the cartoon eyes on the guy down there and focus really on Natalie Stack, who has apparently gained the power of Akira with her giant claw-like arm. Her bicep is wider than her head. Her spine is tilting back as she makes this bizarre sweeping motion that I presume is supposed to be pulling sinews of flesh out from a giant terrorist, but really it just looks like a bunch of strings that are falling out from this guy's outfit. And now, images of people whom I presume to be the terrorists that the two are killing. We give them exactly what they want, minus the innocent victims. They wanted to be shot to death by a vigilante? Oh, and look, the giant ridiculous knife from the cover actually is in the book. Natalie Stack picks it up and swings it at a terrorist, hitting with such force and accuracy that it decapitates one. A terrorist who apparently had wrappings around his entire head except his eyes and mouth. These really are mummies, aren't they? My God, we've had it wrong the whole time. Frank Miller isn't racist or Islamophobic or bigoted. He's trying to inform us of the true evil, the darkest force that is trying to destroy modern-day America with its army of mummies. Ancient Egypt! Or not, as we see one, who of course has explosives tied to himself, proudly proclaim Jihad and click his explosives. Unfortunately for him, they apparently have a 3-second delay, which allows the Fixer to kick him off a roof and proclaim Gesundheit.
You're fired.
And he explodes. Apparently every one of the suicide bombers earlier had the really good bombs, since this one only takes out the guy without any other damage. No nails or razor blades this time. Is it standard operating procedure for all members of Al-Qaeda to wear explosives like this? Seems like it'd be really embarrassing if somebody tripped. The Fixer tells Natalie Stack that they need to keep one of them alive to talk. We'll have to torture him. Torture. Okay, I'm down with that.
You know, as a doctor, I rarely root for the disease, but with you, I find myself cheering, go hypercalcemia with underlying MEN syndrome. Go, go, go!
And so, yes, they proceed to torture the final terrorist. They hang him up by all of his limbs, stand on his back, and the Fixer prepares to slam his foot down on his spine to injure him further. So, Muhammad, pardon me for guessing your name, but you've got to admit the odds are pretty good it's Muhammad. What's the plan? You know, I sometimes get asked why Camelot, of all films, is my favorite movie. And the reason is because it actually changed my life, or at least focused my beliefs into something that was, a good solid foundation for a personal philosophy. Those who have power should use it to do good. That violence is not strength, compassion is not weakness, that revenge is utterly pointless. Superheroes are basically the equivalent of modern-day knight errants. They go out and help people and fight injustices. But a lot of the best superhero comics are the ones not actually about superheroes hitting supervillains or hitting each other or anything like that. It's the ones that show that superheroes are about kindness and decency and something far more noble than the adolescent power fantasies that people often, critique them as. I think I hate this comic more than any other I've ever reviewed because it is the complete antithesis of everything I believe in. Holy Terror says that you should be unkind. It says you shouldn't trust people. It says compassion will be repaid with violence, and that violence can only be answered with more violence, and that violence is strength. That hurting others is not only enjoyable and desirable, but that it should be employed first when dealing with threats. It says that if you have power, you can lord that power over others and do harm to them. It says that revenge is a worthy cause. It treats women as either victims or enemies, and don't assume Natalie Stack is immune to this criticism. Trust me, the book ain't over yet. It tells us we should fear the other, the foreigner, the dark-skinned, the religion that's not your own. And you know what the damnedest thing of all is? I am, honest to God, afraid of terrorism. Terrorism is real. There are people out there who want to kill me, either because I'm from a different country, or just because there's some angry misanthrope with a gun. That applies to both foreign and domestic terrorists. Terrorism is about making someone so afraid that they'll do what you tell them to. And the grand message of Frank Miller's Holy Terror is, be afraid, be terrified, and let's give in to that fear and embrace every dark, sick, and inhuman part of our souls as a result, and do everything to them that they will do to us. Frank, you must be so proud. So behold the Fixer, as he breaks a man's spine when he refuses to talk, crippling him for life, and then threatening to take out his eyes. Our hero, everyone. But I'm sure you're all sick of me making a speech, so instead, let's talk about how this scene is really frickin' stupid. We'll ignore the moral argument about torture in general, regardless of the fact that torture is an ineffective method for gaining information. Oh no, let's just stick to the idiotic dialogue. You're already aware of the horribly bigoted remark the Fixer said about the guy's name, but there's so much more. You'd better listen to him, Mo. The Fixer is a gentle soul, but when he gets riled, well, he's been known to hurt people. Oh yeah, he's as calm and gentle as a frickin' old lady baking cookies. I especially noticed that about him when he was shooting people in the head and kicking them off buildings. Al-Qaeda's not gonna stop at a few scattered atrocities. That's not your style. You're leading up to something big.
But why? Brackett is no mad dog killer. He is after something.
That's probably the dumbest misconception about Al-Qaeda right there. That is exactly Al-Qaeda's style. They're not a friggin' standing army with millions of organized soldiers. They're a guerrilla force. I mean, this is conspiracy theory level stupidity, that people can't understand that small-scale operations can have large consequences and devastating effects. Except that while usually conspiracy theorists surmise that terrorists weren't behind 9/11 because of that short-sightedness, Frank actually goes to the other extreme, that it's just a sign of bigger attacks. So yeah, the guy talks, apparently vaguely informing them that something big is coming. And then they use a device that the Fixer has to remotely detonate his explosives. Yeesh, that's a lot of chunks of terrorists. At least we know they're the same species. I'd just like to remind you all that the Fixer is a gentle soul. I fricking hate this comic.